This conference will now be recorded.
Yes, anyone, any questions, guys, before we can get started? Any questions that we can take because before we can get started out there? So we were looking into the concepts. So before yesterday, we were looking into the concepts of ARM template. We were understanding how to write a simple ARM template and what are parameters in ARM template, what are allowed values, and what are default values out here. And we went ahead created a simple storage account out here. We just went ahead provision one simple storage account in there using one particular ARM template out there. So any questions here? Anyone? Any questions here before I can take before I can start it? So I'll open the folder. Let's open a new folder today. All right. So let's get started. Let's say Control N and let's select a new language out here again and say this Azure Resource Manager template. And once it loads, I'll start off with something called ARM exclamation to load that empty blank body out here. And once going inside it, now today I want to create multiple storage accounts using a same template. Using one simple template out here, I want to create multiple storage accounts out there. So any ideas on how do we do that? So now the rule here is that I should have only one template, only one JSON file, and I create, let's say, three different storage accounts here, or three storage accounts here, let's say. Three storage accounts using one template out here. So what is your thought about this one? Like how can we do it? How do you think that we can do it? Shall I take the same template, deploy three times? Because I'm parameterizing it anyways. I can pass new values every time that I deploy. So can I take it, deploy three different times out here to create three different storage accounts? Will that work? Yes, it will work. It will definitely
Yes,
work. But what about 300 storage accounts then? If I want to create the same template, not let's say 30 storage accounts or probably 300 storage accounts, then I'll have to deploy the same thing 30 different times or 300 different times out there. It'll again become a little difficult, right? What about something like this? I'll say ARM hyphen storage account one. I'll give a comma in the end. Can I again say ARM hyphen storage? I'll again give a comma here and say ARM hyphen storage. Three different storage accounts in the same template. I can now give three different parameters here. Telling storage account name one, storage name two, storage name three. And instead of let's say calling storage account one here, I can say parameters storage account name one. I can say parameters storage name two. I can say parameters storage name three. Something that I can do. Will this work?
yes,
Will this work? Yes, it will work because I'm just simply copying the entire block, repasting it out, changing the parameter. But again comes down to the same issue is that if I just save this out, let me save this out. I'll say storage accounts and let's save this out in a JSON file. Again comes down to the basic issue that you know what, if I want to write or if I want to let's say create 30 storage accounts, I need to write 30 parameters here and I need to multiply this into 30 times, meaning I need 30 different blocks out here. Each and every block creates one particular storage account. This one creates the first, this one creates the second, this one creates the third. I have three different blocks out here to create three different storage accounts out there. If I now have 30, then I need to write this 30 different times and then deploy it out. Again, from a maintenance perspective, when I'm saying maintenance, see, if you look at this template, it is around 71 lines. Three blocks is around 71 lines. If I add one more, it'll go to 90. If I add one more, it'll go to, let's say, 110. So if I add 30, the length of my template is also very big. So if there is any mistake in your template, it will be very difficult for you to catch that particular mistake in that, let's say that big length out there. So from a maintenance perspective, also it becomes very difficult for me. In, let's say, PowerShell, let's talk about a little PowerShell out there. When I say new hyphen AZ storage account, it will go and create one storage account out there. To create multiple storage accounts, did I run that new hyphen AZ command multiple times? Did I run it parallelly multiple times, or what did I do
Array.
for each for loop? Some kind of an iteration. Can I take the same for each loop and keep it here? Can I write something like, I'll take this entire things out. I don't want these blocks out here. And before this loop starts in, can I do a for each? No. Reason being, this is a syntax of PowerShell. I cannot use it in ARM. I cannot use the same thing in ARM out here. But I can use one more thing called as a template function. Now, we have already read about one of the template functions which is called parameters. That's a template function. So when you do a parameters, you just call a template function out here. This time around, I'll be using a template function called copy index. This is what I'll be using to create multiple resources of the same type. Let's say storage account, multiple storage accounts out here. And this is what I'll be going into called copy indexing in ARM. So I'll say copy index in ARM templates. You see what it is telling? Resource iteration in ARM templates. Let's go there. Let's understand by an example on how the syntax really looks like. It says this is a syntax, there is a copy limit and all that stuff. And it's telling there is something called iteration of the resources. How do you use a particular copy index out here? Now, if you look at this example, it will become a little, let's say, tricky, but this is how the syntax really looks like. So if you see this, it's saying concat, meaning add storage with what? Copy index. And do you see how the names are getting created? 0, 1, and 2. Meaning it's acting like a for loop. Like when you say I is equal to 0 and all these things, it's acting like a for loop out here. So now my point is that I want three different storage accounts. Let's say one storage account is called dev arm storage abc us is to 0. Second storage account is called the same, ending with 1. Third storage account ending with 2. So what I'm doing is that there is a unique name out here called dev arm storage abc, let's say us is 2. At the end I'm adding what? 0, 1 and 2 out here. So it's very simple. I need to add this name with 0 for the first time, 1 for the second time, and 2 for the third time. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do to, let's say, create three different storage accounts out here. So what I'll do is I'll take this name, go into my RM template. I'll remove these values. I don't need, let's say, storage 2, storage 3 and all these things out. I'll remove these values out here. I'll just say storage account name. That's it. And here I will give a default value called whatever that I copied. Dev ARM ABC USC student etc. And what I'll do here is that I will use something called as a concatenation function. Why is the concatenation used? To add two different things. I will say concat, and what should I concat? I will say parameters storage account name, comma, copy index. And copy index, after that you will have to, let's say, give an open and a close bracket. This is the parentheses that you need to give. As and when I gave this, I'll save this out. This looks good. Now see, it's telling that please take that particular storage account name and add it to something called what? Copy index out here. This is what it is now telling me. But one thing that I'm, let's say missing on out here is this. After I added a copy index, do you see the script giving you any kind of an error? Do you see any error here? Exactly. Where have I given the number? I've not given the number. That's the reason I am getting an error. The color is changed. Do you see this? And it is also throwing you an error here. It's also throwing you an error. And if you just go to that particular error here, it's telling at line is not expected. The template function called copy index is not expected at this particular location because agreed I'll do a copy index. Sorry, agreed I'll do a copy index. But did you tell me a number? Did you tell me how many times I need to copy? Is it 2, 200, 300? What it is? No, I did not tell it. For which I need to add one more, let's say, parameter here, or I need to add one more property here called copy. So control space, there is something called copy out here. This is again a list which has its own properties called the name. I can give any name, something like simple copy. I'm giving a name out here and I'm saying count. I'm not passing it inside, let's say, the quotes. This is not a string, it's an integer, it's a number. So I'm not passing it in a string. So whenever you declare something called as a copy index, please include something called as a copy block. Question is that is there a position where I need to include it? Is it, does it have to be definitely after the name? No, you can include it anywhere. I can simply take this out, even paste it at the end, and simply cut this out, even paste it at the end out here. Will work, but here I have pasted it inside the property, so that's the reason it's not, let's say, picking this up. Or just take this out, and yes, will work. You can paste it anywhere between the line number 16 and line number 34, where you have this particular first resource. You can paste it anywhere. You can have it anywhere, literally anywhere. You can call this out here. So just again, let's say re-putting this, let's say at line number this one, so that it will be easy for us to follow. So I'm using a concatenation. I'm telling parameter storage account name with something known as copy index out here, and I'm saying the name of the copy is what? Simple copy, and the count is what? 3 out here. So let's take this template. Let's go back into Azure, let's say the Azure portal out here, and I'll say deploy a custom template. Same thing again. And once I tell deploy a custom template, I'll say build your own template, load that particular file. Let's go into that particular drive, take this file, and I'll say save. A resource group, I'll say this is, let's say, something like sample resource group out here. Now I'll say review and create. And once I do a review and create, let's see how ARM template really works out here. Let's say create this out. And once I hit that particular create button, and once it starts the deployment, let's understand how it treats this particular deployment as. So in my template, I'm using something called copy index followed by something called as a copy block, wherein I'm telling how many resources that I need. Is it 3, 4, 5, what it is? And I'm deploying this template. And do you see what it is doing right now? Dev ARM something 0, 1, 2. It's creating them parallelly. ARM template by default works in a parallel mode of deployment, unlike PowerShell, which is serial. So the time it took to create one storage account is the same time what it took to create 3 storage accounts out here. Meaning if I take 2 or 5 minutes for let's say one storage account, literally the same time will take let's say for 30 storage accounts as well. All you need to do is change this number. How many storages that you want? How many let's say times that you need to let's say copy this out? What if the storage account name is different? I'll also come down to that. I'll also come down in a bit of way telling that what if the name is different? What if you want to create it in a different location also? Different SKUs. In this way, what I did is that I created my storage accounts like with the same naming pattern, same location, same properties as well. It's in LRS, it is in let's say premium, it is a storage V2, same properties as well. We'll also talk about what if there are different properties, how do you let's say treat those different properties out here, etc. Yes, any questions still here? Anyone, any questions still here that I can take? So let's go back into our template and let's see what did we do. So storage account name, and then I have something known as the name out here, saying parameter storage name, and then I said something called copy index
I can
is good, please.
we not deployed a location no resource group was not location we wrote it. So
Yes, so it will
how we
just
take
take
a
the
which
location.
way?
Yeah, this is a template function. It will just take whatever is the location of your resource group. If it says
Okay,
resource group dot location, it will just take the location wherever your resource group is. It will take that particular location and give it to your resources as well.
okay, thank you.
Yes, any more questions here? Anyone? Any questions still here that I can take? Anyone? Anything till here?
Sir, can
Are
you
we good?
repeat?
Hmm? Sorry, good, please.
Sir, can you repeat this? Where we need to mention this DevOps and all, name of the storage account.
So the name of the storage account, sure. So the name of the storage account is passed as a parameter. So I've passed a generic name in the parameter out here. And what I did is in the resources, I'm saying concat, meaning add two different things out here, calling the parameter storage account name that I passed plus something called as the copy index value that starts by default on 0, goes to 1 and goes to 2 because I just need around what, three different things out here. And after that I went ahead, use something known as a copy block, out here, wherein I'm mentioning the properties like what is the name of this particular copy block and what is the count that I need, and then went ahead, took this entire template, went into my portal, deployed this particular template out there. That is what I did here. Does that answer your question?
Sir, thank you.
Hmm. That will also work. So if you do not give it in parameters, let's say you do not have this particular parameter, I'll just copy this out. You do not have the parameter at all. So instead of telling parameter storage name, pass the storage name directly in quotes. So take that particular string and it'll let's say add that particular string to let's say another copy index out here. Even this will work out here. Yes, any questions? Again, the documentation is here. Now there are a good amount of examples. Yes, go ahead, please. Guys, can you please stay on mute if you're not talking, please?
In that copy section. Oh, it should mandatory for a name
I'm sorry, can you come again, please?
in the copy
Yes. Yes.
name should mandatory.
Name should be mandatory. Name is mandatory. Sorry,
Pakka.
in this? No, it will not show anywhere in the script. It is internally used to call that particular loop out here. So, but if I remove the name, right, this function will fail. It'll start throwing error out here. It'll become an invalid loop out here. So you will have to pass in a name. And if you want to tell, let's say, take this particular loop, inside this, you can say it is simple copy. You can call this value out here. But if you don't even give that, it will still work. Now by default, the index of copy starts by 0, goes to 1, goes to 2, so on and so forth. This is called as an offset value. Let's say tomorrow your client comes to you and says, you know what, I don't want it to start from 0, but I want it to start from 50, go to 51, 52, and so on and so forth. That's the series that I need. Very simply, what you do is just come here. If you don't mention anything, it is 0. Inside which, if I mention 50, it will start by 50, 50, 51, 52, and so on and so forth. This is how you need to change something called as an offset value out here. Getting this? Now let's look at one more example. Now to answer to your question, if I have three different names, then how do I deal with them? Because this is just one name that I created. If I have three different names, let's also do that. Let's say in this one, I will say it is Azure Resource Manager Templates. Again, ARM, and I'll start with something called as ARM hyphen storages. One simple block. I'm not, let's say, multiplying this block. I'm not copying this. Reason being, I'm using something called as a copy index right now. And now in the parameter, I will say new parameter storage account names. These are multiple names. It cannot be a string. What it should be then? Array. I'll say array with a default value in an array format. And in here, what I'll do, I'll say it is dev storage abc xyz 000 cus, something like this. And I'll say qa storage abc xyz 000, and I'll say Devops storage. Some random names out here that I'm passing. I'll just save this out. I'll save my template telling that it is different names and in a JSON format out here. So I have different names and I passed all the different names in a parameter called storage account names with a type called what? Array. And going here, I will take this out and I'll say parameters storage account names. After this, I'm again opening up the square brackets to call a function called copy index, meaning I am asking the copy index to now go over this particular loop. To go over this particular loop, meaning do a for or do a for each on this particular parameter, which is an array which has three different things out here, which is three different names out here. Again, if you look at the documentation out here, you literally have the same example. Three different names, and you see how it is getting concatenated. Don't, let's say, don't look at this particular unique string and all that stuff. But if you see parameter storage names and then something called copy index out here. Now, if I go back into my template, I now need to mention the copy, because here it is just telling that the template function is invalid because you do not mention copy index and all that stuff. I'll do what? Copy. I'll say the list name. I'll just do a simple name out here, like something like simple copy again. In here, I'll say count. What should be the count now? 3. But tomorrow, if someone goes ahead and adds something here, I cannot give a static number, right? What I'll do is I'll say the count is length of parameters storage account names. The length of parameter storage account names is nothing but how much or how many things are there in this particular array. Here it is 3 out here. So I'm now doing a length, a function called length of what? Parameters, that particular parameter called storage account name, and this length will return a number called 3, 4, whatever it is, whatever is the length of that particular array. And what I'll do right now is I'll just go ahead and declare all these things out here. In here I'll say it is ECS2. I'll say this is standard LRS. I don't need a premium account. I'll say this is standard, and I'll save this out. Different names out here. I'm passing all of them inside an array. Again, the length is the same. The length of the template is also the same. See, if you look at this one, a little bit, let's say, lengthier, because the number of names basically are more out here. Now, if I just go back into my Azure portal, I'll again say deploy a custom template. I'll say build your own template out here. I'll say load this particular file. Different names. I'll say open this out. Save this out. Create a new resource group called different names RG. And I'll say the resource group can be in any location. And do you see how this is getting passed? In an array format out here. And I'll say review and create this out. It's now running the template validation, and it's seeing whether the syntax that I pass is that right and all that stuff. And if it is, then it will tell valid, or it will tell, let's say, the template deployment failed out here. And I'll say create this out. So now I'm creating 3 different names out here using the same copy index, but the way I'm using copy index is slightly different. I'm not using the copy index in the literal way. I'm using the copy index in a combination with the array parameters copy index in a combination with this particular array out here.